Next on Up Close, the staff that plays together stays together, or do they? Tom Glavine of the Atlanta Braves talks about realizing a dream and then trying to repeat it.
From the ESPN studios in Los Angeles, here's Chris Myers.
Hi, how you doing? Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us. In a moment, last year's most valuable player in the World Series, Tom Glavine, talks about an important car ride moments before he pitched the title game for the Braves. But first, a check on some of the stories making news today. And a former employee has filed a civil lawsuit against Seattle Seahawks owner Ken Behring. The woman who resigned March 1st is accusing Behring of sexual assault and battery. The FBI has obtained a search warrant for the home of Alonzo Mourning. Federal agents seized boxes of records from his Potomac, Maryland residence, and although they have made it very clear that Mourning is not the target of the investigation. Twins outfielder Kirby Puckett is expected to undergo laser surgery on his eye Wednesday in Baltimore. He says as soon as he can see clearly, he'll return. And Cecil Fielder hit 3 homers today in the Tigers' 13-8 win over the Jays. He now has 9 home runs. That's within 2 of Greg Nettles' 1974 league record for the most hit in the month of April. SportsCenter will have more on these stories, including the Chicago Bulls speeding at 70. Now, up close in the headlines. East Rutherford, New Jersey, and Nets coach Butch Beard shoots back after being referred to as the ex-coach by a member of the team's front office. Beard says he deserves to be brought back and responded to speculation that the Nets will go after a major-name college coach. Beard says, and we quote, "They can chop my head and bring in Pitino or Calipari, but if they get one of those guys, I hope they have the same roster because I can't wait to walk back in here and see how many wins they're going to get." Up close in the headlines, Tel Aviv, Israel, and coaches go to great lengths to recruit top talent. UCLA's Jim Herrick is pursuing 6'2" guard Oded Katash off the coast of the Mediterranean. Now, Herrick is about 110 miles south of the Israel-Lebanon border, where there has already been much bloodshed and bombing, and the situation might even be dangerous for Herrick, more dangerous because he's of Lebanese descent. The trip may not even be worth it for the UCLA head coach. According to the player, Katash, the Bruins are a distant 3rd on the list. He's leaning toward Miami because of the area's large Jewish population. He may also go there to get as far away from Marlon Brando as possible. Up close in the headlines, Cleveland, Ohio. Indians DH Eddie Murray, when asked about how people will vote on his Hall of Fame credentials, said, frankly, he doesn't care what people think and that some of the Hall of Fame voters don't deserve the power they have. At least Eddie Murray is talking. Up close to the headlines, New York, New York. Yankee manager Joe Torre was asked about a proposal to build a new stadium in Manhattan in the year 2002, and Torre said, hey, you're talking to a guy with a 2-year contract, so to be honest, it's really not my concern. And to be honest with you, Joe, when you're a Yankee manager, having a job tomorrow is always the concern. And up close to the headlines, Atlanta, Georgia, the World Series champions entering today's play, a game below 500, but don't let that slow start fool you. Since moving to Atlanta in 1966, the Braves had only 7 winning records in the opening month of the season. Last year, when most of the April games were wiped out by the strike-shortened season, the team went 4-1, but only one other time in the last 13 years did they have a winning April. Somebody who thinks they'll still be playing in October is Tom Glavine. The Braves lefty will join us up close when we continue. He'll tell us which of the Fantastic Four, Maddox, Smoltz, Avery, or himself, may not be around for the long haul, and he'll reflect on the Braves making it to the top.
McDonald's invites you to play the Disney Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge of Disney Masterpiece Collection videos and win one of 300 million prizes.
I won!
Come play today at McDonald's. Look who's winning at McDonald's. Phyllis Arnold won a Walt Disney World vacation for 4. Nathan Reynolds won a Sony Maximum television. Come play the Disney Video Masterpiece Collection Trivia Challenge today at McDonald's. You could be next.
You said you had fished here before. Don't start.
You're lost, aren't you?
No.
Come on.
No.
Come on, you can admit it.
No.
Come on, tell me.
I'm not lost. I know where we are. I know exactly.
Yeah?
We'll never get the copier fixed before the meeting.
It's handled.
If your office equipment ever breaks down, no matter where you are in the business world, remember, nobody responds like Danka. Only Danka offers copiers, fax machines, and digital systems with this world-class commitment to service.
How'd you get here so fast?
I took a few shortcuts.
Danka, world-class products, world-class service.
If you're driving with worn shocks or struts, it could affect your ability to make sudden stops. At times like this, even a small distance can make a big difference. With worn-out shocks, your tires could lose contact with the road. But with new Monroe shocks, your tires hold the road, providing extra control, which could improve your braking. Make the road a safer place with Monroe. Buy 3 Gasmatic Plus or Gas Magnum Plus and get the 4th free at participating retailers.
Welcome back to the show. He was the most valuable player in last year's World Series. Over the last 5 years, no pitcher in Major League Baseball has won more games. Tom Glavine of the Braves, welcome to the program. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've talked to you by way of satellite over the last year or so. Nice to have you here. You were there in '88 when the Braves lost more than 100 games, and you were close a couple of times with the World Series. So let's talk personally first, what it meant for you to win it all the way you did and have an off-season to reflect on it.
Well, I think it kind of, you know, was the signification of the team had come full circle. And for me, it was a lot of pride, satisfaction, you know, dream come true. I mean, I think in the end, that's what made winning the World Series with this group of guys so much more fun and so special, is because there's a lot of guys there who had been around for those 100 loss seasons, had been around for the 2 World Series losses, and to ultimately go through all those bad times with these guys and then experience the satisfaction of winning it all with that very same group of guys, I think that made it a lot more fun.
Is there a moment at the ballpark or riding home or getting back after a victory parade where you're by yourself and you kind of let those thoughts race through your head? Did you experience that?
I probably did. I would say probably after the parade. You know, because after you win, after the game is over,
you're tired.
You're tired. There's so many things going on because there's so much media attention. You're being pulled in 100 different directions to do interviews. Then, you know, you go home and it really hasn't sunk in. You know, family is in town, so you're still spending time with them and that kind of thing. And by Monday, the parade rolls around, so you've had a day or two to think about it. And then once the parade's over and you go home and you realize, okay, the season is over, I don't have to go to the ballpark anymore for another 6 months, that's when you start thinking about it. I think it really started to set in.
Some players go a career, great players go a career, never get to a series, let alone win it, experience what you did. So in that personal sense, was this your, you know, Tom Glavine, I've pretty much done it all now. I can at least relax a little bit more? Yeah,
I think so. On a personal level, yeah. You know, because obviously I've been fortunate enough to win a Cy Young Award, win 20 games, you know, and have those individual awards. So those things were all real special, but not having that World Championship was kind of like there was a void there. There was something that wasn't complete, and obviously the only thing that could complete that was the World Championship. So it was a sense, again, of fulfillment, and okay, now I've kind of accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish in this game. And like I said, there's a lot of guys that never play this game, you know, that play this game that never get to a World Series or win one. And there was a guy that played on our team for a long time, Dale Murphy, who went through that very thing. So, you know, you realize how special a moment it is, and I just hope that, you know, it's nice that we got the one, but I sure would like to do everything all over again. And you were the MVP, and you closed it out in Game 6. 8 innings, no runs, only 1 hit. Take us back through what you were thinking at that time. Well, you know, I knew coming out of the bullpen I had decent stuff that night. I knew it was much better than I had. So you felt it, right? As big as the game was, you knew you had what it took. I did. You know, surprisingly going into it, I was real relaxed. And, again, I just wanted to go to the bullpen and try and get loose, figure out what kind of stuff I had, and then go from there. And I knew coming out of the bullpen I had better stuff than I had in Game 2. But really, with me, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what goes on in the bullpen because I've warmed up terrible in the bullpen and gone out and thrown a shutout, and I've come out of the bullpen thinking, man, I'm going to throw a no-hitter tonight, and I've gotten my butt kicked. So you just never know. So, but I knew I had a little bit better stuff in Game 2, and it was just a matter of going out there and figuring out exactly what I had and where it was. And I knew after the first inning I had good stuff, I had good location, and it was just a matter of really, I think, a concentration thing of not not thinking too far ahead as far as hitters or innings, not thinking too far ahead of, well, gosh, if we win this game, what's it going to mean to everybody?
Yeah, was that part of what you thought out on the mound, or even just what you talked about, being close before, and this was up to you to seal the deal?
Well, those thoughts are all there, but I think that was the big thing that I was trying to battle against that whole game. You know, again, once you realize as a pitcher you've got your stuff and you have the things you want going on out there, then it becomes kind of a personal battle with not getting caught up in all those things, and that's what it was for me. You know, obviously I'm sitting there rooting, hoping we're going to get some runs, we're going to get a lead, and I can relax a little bit, but the big thing for me, like I say, was I knew the stuff was there. Now it's a matter of mentally staying where I am and not thinking down the road as to what is this all going to mean if you keep doing what you're doing and we win, because as soon as you start doing that, you lose track of what you're doing and you give up some runs.
So you want the energy and the emotion. Why weren't you nervous?
I don't know. I think because I had been there.
That helped.
Yeah, I think that obviously helps pitching in those situations. The more you do it, the easier it gets. I mean, it's never totally easy, but I think you learn to deal with everything else a little bit better. And I don't know. I think there was so much talk about what this game meant both for the team, for the organization, for the city, and that's all everybody wanted to talk about. And all I wanted to do, you know, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to think about that. I was just going to think about the game, and I just relaxed that whole day long at home with my wife and my daughter and tried to keep my mind off the game as much as I could. And actually, when I got to the ballpark that afternoon, you know, we had batting practice. I came in and I fell asleep for about 15 or 20 minutes. So
you were that relaxed. Have you watched the tape of that game? Your performance?
I've watched bits and pieces of it. I haven't actually sat down and watched the game just to enjoy it. I've gone through it with different reporters who have wanted to do stories on it and kind of break it down inning by inning, but I have yet to sit down with nothing to do, so to speak, and just watch that game and enjoy it for the game that it was, but it's something that I will do, and I'm looking forward to doing.
Was there also a sense of vindication for being the player rep and your stance during the strike? Fans turning, and we've talked briefly with you about this on the program before, turning against Tom Glavine because they were upset about the situation, and I know that personally hurt you.
Yeah, you know, there was some of that there, but there again, I didn't go into that game with that thought on my mind either. I just wanted to pitch that game like it was any other game and go out there and do my best. And as far as, again, the thoughts of what it would mean for the city, the organization, for the players, for any of those thoughts of vindication, I didn't want those things to be in my head. That wasn't the reason I was wanting to go out there and pitch a good game. If I pitch a good game and that happens, people that didn't like me again, then that's great. But if that was my motivation for going out there to pitch, I was pitching for the wrong reasons.
How important was the ride after the workout prior to Game 6, the car ride with you and Greg Maddux and your conversation?
Well, it was real important because everybody had asked so many questions to me about, well, you know, you saw what they did with Greg. What kind of adjustments are you going to make now? And I really did not know how to answer the questions because I had watched Greg pitch all year long, had charted him all year long, and I, sitting there watching him chart, I thought it was more that Greg did not have his good stuff or his good location, more so than it was the Indians made adjustments to him. And I didn't want to answer those questions until I really had a chance to sit down and talk to Greg, and that was what I talked to him about on the way home. And I asked him point blank, did you think they made adjustments to you, or do you think you were off your game? And he said to me, without hesitation, go out and pitch your game and you're going to be fine.
And the advice was very good because Tom Glavine did and was the most valuable player, of course, for the Braves in their World Series victory. We'll continue with Tom, talk about keeping the staff together, and that includes a staff loaded with aces, Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux. We're up close with Tom in Los Angeles. Stay with us. I know you will.
Music Express, voted #1 by the National Limousine Association, has offices in Los Angeles and on the East Coast. Music Express can handle your corporate needs anywhere in the U.S. and worldwide. And guests of Up Close stay at the Beverly Prescott, L.A.'s premier boutique hotel. Call your travel agent to make reservations at the Beverly Prescott, a Kimpton hotel.
Unless your favorite artist performed in your living room, MTV Unplugged is as intimate as music gets. This time you can be there. Enter MTV and Comcast Ultimate Unplugged Getaway. Win, and we'll send you and a friend to New York City to be part of music history. You could also win the MTV Unplugged box set full of unplugged goodies or the limited edition Unplugged book. MTV and Comcast want you to be a part of rock and roll history. Here's how.
Stop by this participating sponsor and enter to win. No purchase necessary. Ford dealer in Lawrence. Ford Motor Motor Company wants Haldeman Ford in Hamilton Square to sell more cars and trucks than ever. Haldeman is ready with over 500 new and 200 pre-owned vehicles. Financing as low as 4.8% and factory rebates as high as $2,000. Haldeman Ford is Mercer County. For the lowest price and the largest selection, Haldeman Ford, Route 33, Hamilton Square.
Then what'd you say?
So I said, if that's Grant's problem, I want to send a case of whiskey to all my generals.
What do you got? Something else, huh, Jack?
Later on SportsCenter, the Bulls Circus stops in Milwaukee and goes for the record. Cecil goes deep multiple times. The NHL gets icy hot as the playoffs begin. And a complete preview of the NFL Draft. It's SportsCenter at 6:30 Eastern.
Welcome back to Up Close. We're talking with Tom Glavine of the Atlanta Braves, 10-year veteran, and the Braves, of course, off their World Series championship, get their rings in it. It says something about team of the 90s on that ring. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, that's okay. You know, I think over the
presumptuous.
Yeah, it can be, but I guess for the first half of the 90s, you can make an argument for that. Obviously, there's some people in Toronto that will probably make a different argument because they've got 2 world championships. But you know, over the course of the 90s, we've won more ball games than anybody in baseball, and we have a world championship to go with that. So I think we have some ammunition to back that up. But
does it add a little incentive to get another title? Not that you need it, but
well, I think it does. I mean, there's another half of this decade to go. So you know, somebody certainly could catch us in the next 5 years, and you know, we'll wait and see. But you know, we've been able to keep a lot of our guys together, so hopefully we can continue this run that we've had and win a few more championships.
Pitching specifically, and Don Sutton, the former Major League pitcher who knows something about the craft and the fine announcer, now said that the Braves staff is better than the Dodgers staff of Drysdale and Koufax. Obviously, you and Greg Maddux are heading up this Braves staff. How do you feel about that?
You know, when I hear stuff like that, obviously as a player, it makes you feel good. You're proud of that. But I don't know. I mean, we've heard so much comparison, you know, about the Drysdale and Koufax and the staffs of the Orioles in the 70s. And you know, I really don't remember those staffs all that much. Obviously, I know the names and where they stand in the history of the game, but I don't know what those staffs were totally like, so it's hard for me really to judge it. I look at what those guys have done over the course of their careers, and I look at what I've done, what Greg has done.
What should a great staff be measured by, in your opinion?
Well, I think a great staff can be measured by the things that we've done. I mean, we've gone out there and we've been real healthy, which is a huge factor. We've put up some good numbers as far as win-loss percentages, some good staff ERAs. So, I mean, we have the criteria to be judged. It's just that sometimes I'm not real sure if we're as good as some of those other staffs are. But like I say, to be mentioned in the same breath with those staffs is great. I just wonder sometimes if we really deserve it right now.
Does it concern you that this staff, the 4 of you and Greg Maddux, Steve Avery, and John Smoltz, may not be together much longer? 2 of the pitchers, Avery and Smoltz, have contracts that are expiring after this season. You and Greg have a year or so to go before anything is determined there, and you have to wonder with those kinds of salaries how much the Braves can actually afford.
Well, you have to wonder. You know, I guess just like we wondered this offseason whether or not we're going to be able to keep Freddie and Marquise, you know, you're going to have to start wondering the same things with the pitching staff. And I don't know. I know that our front office and Ted Turner always have been willing to do what they've had to do to keep players on the team, particularly quality players. You know, with this team, yeah, we've done a good job, I guess, of building the team around the pitching staff, right. And that's been an important element. So at some point in time, yeah, they're going to have to sit back and I guess evaluate if that's how they want to continue to do things. And you know, I have confidence with Ted Turner and with John Sherholtz in our front office that if there's any way to get the 4 of us signed, they're going to do it.
If you had a guess, though, realistically, should we assume that one may not be here next year?
Realistically, you'd probably have to assume at least one guy's going to go, but you know, I think realistically, again, last winter we thought that the chances of keeping both Freddie and Marquise weren't very good, but in the end, we kept them both, so I think we're hoping that in the end we can keep our 4 guys together again.
How about for you? We have the option year after the season. Would you like to work out a deal and sign long-term and get that out of the way?
I would love to. You know, there's been some talk about that.
So you've begun minor
Well, not
discussion.
really. I mean, not actual negotiations. I mean, there's been rumors floating around in the paper that it was going to start, and, you know, I had a conversation with John Sherholtz before the start of spring training. And I know that club policy has been that they don't typically negotiate extensions during the season, and I'm fully aware of that, and I understand that. And I've told John that I understood that. But if he called me tomorrow and said, okay, I want to change what I've done and I want to start talking, I would certainly be open to doing that because, I mean, I love Atlanta. I love playing there. My family's there, and I love the guys on the team.
And how much would you signing have to do with some of those other players, a Greg Maddux or a John Smoltz or a Steve Avery staying as well?
It depends on who you talk to. I think there are some people that think that I'm going to be the guy they'll go after, and then everybody will kind of settle in from there. Other people think that, you go after Greg and see where he signs, and then you go accordingly with the rest of the guys. So, I don't know. I'm sure they have a strategy in mind, but I think we would all love to stay together if there's any way possible.
And it is amazing at these times, not only baseball, but football seems like every sport, and you've probably enjoyed this, that you four have been able to stay together as long as you have, build up the camaraderie. We've seen the success on the field. I mean, that is amazing that the staff, the team has been able to do that, and I think you've benefited from that.
Oh, absolutely. It really is. The hardest thing sometimes about this game is that, you get to know some guys and you become friends, and all of a sudden they're gone. And that gets hard to deal with year in and year out. But with this group of guys, we've been together for a long, long time. We obviously know each other real well as teammates, but just as importantly, I think we all consider each other friends, and we get along real well off the field. So we end up spending a lot of time together, and when you're spending as much time together as we do, we end up talking a lot about pitching, and ultimately I think we learn a lot from each other.
I will also talk about golf. We'll get his story about falling in the creek, and in fact, he golfed right before he came over to the show. We'll also ask about that hockey-baseball decision, reflect back on that. We're with Tom Glavine of the Braves. We'll have more in a moment. Don't go away.
After years of building cages, we're about to let the animal out. Introducing the 850R from Volvo.
Carbon monoxide isn't the only thing to worry about coming from your tailpipe, because with every stroke of your engine, motor oil is being vaporized into exhaust, leaving less and less protection. That's why there's Castrol GTX 10W30. Of every leading 10W30, Castrol provides the most protection against volatility burn-off. So use Castrol, or watch more of your protection go up in smoke. Castrol GTX, engineered for greater protection against breakdown.
What kind of superstitions does Mike have around the playoffs?
Okay, because there's a few things that I would prefer you didn't ask me about.
He did have a ritual with underwear, and when he was on a winning streak, he would wear the same underwear.
So he might be wearing the same underwear for 2 months?
Yes.
We all assumed that he washed it from time to time.
And they have little blue polka dots on them and fish. No, he definitely doesn't want me to talk about it.
They had little fish on them.
And now the debate is go with the fish for the playoffs, the stripes for the polka dots. But we aren't going to film these, right?
Wednesday on Up Close, Bruce Smith of the Buffalo Bills talks football and dealing with racism at its worst. Then on Thursday, it's college basketball with the NCAA Coach of the Year, Gene Cady. His personal difficulties and still trying to run a team during the season. On Friday, Eric Dickerson, the former Ram running back, will be here to size up the running backs in Saturday's NFL Draft. And when we come back, more with Tom Glavine. Would he trade baseball right now to be a hockey player? We'll ask him.
McDonald's invites you to play the Disney Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge of Disney Masterpiece Collection videos and win one of 300 million prizes. Come play today at McDonald's. Look who's winning at McDonald's. Jerry Kenny won $100,000. Susie Howard won free Happy Meals for a year. Come play the Disney Video Masterpiece Collection Trivia Challenge today at McDonald's. You could be next.
There's a college team I practice with to stay in shape. Each one is out to prove that they can hit the Rhine Express. I'm out to prove they can't. Right there. After a day of fastballs, it's Advil for me. Nothing Nothing has shown me that it works better or lasts longer than Advil.
For sore muscles, more doctors recommend Advil than any other pain reliever.
I love that sound.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
What's the NFL doing on ESPN and ESPN2 in April? Important business. It's the NFL Draft. This weekend on ESPN, starting at noon and continuing on ESPN2 at 7. Continuous coverage on ESPN Net Sports Zone.
Continental Airlines, now among the best in the business at getting you to your destination on time.
We're winding down with Tom Glavine of the Braves. He talked about the camaraderie and togetherness of the Brave pitching staff. You guys golf off. In fact, you even also have little wagers on who has the best batting average, right, at the end of the year. And you just edged out John Smoltz last year. Yeah. So these golf games get pretty intense. Tell me what happened at the Country Club of the South when you went into the creek. One of the guys told me to ask you about that.
Well, I'm going to have to find out which one of those guys told you to ask me. But actually, this happened in '92, and it was myself and Smoltzy and Charlie Lebrun, who was with us at the time, and Brett Saberhagen when he was with the Mets. And we were at Country Club of the South, and they had on the 16th hole, there's a creek that runs along the fairway on the right-hand side, and you have to walk across some bridges that they had to get across the creek in the fairway. And one of the bridges I was walking across, it was a rock bridge. As I was walking across it, I took a step, and the rock I stepped on gave out. And the next thing I know, I was up to my neck in water, holding on to that bridge, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough because, I mean, there's snakes and everything else in there, so I couldn't get out of there as fast as I wanted to, and I just kind of looked up and saw those guys over in the fairway, and I know they were all looking at me thinking, what just happened? And they waited till I got out of the water and made sure I was okay.
They knew you were?
Oh, yeah, and all three of them just fell on the ground laughing, but it couldn't have been better timing because the whole house I was living at the time was right there on the 16th fairway, so I just jumped out of the creek, walked across the fairway, went upstairs, changed, and came back out and finished the last 3 holes, so it was great.
How'd you shoot that day?
I was doing good until that point, and then from that point on, it was kind of tough because I don't think any of us could stop laughing enough to take a good swing at the ball.
Thank goodness you're a little more smooth on the mound, right?
Yeah,
so we don't have to worry about that. Greg Maddux, how did you handle with it? How come being overshadowed by the ace Greg Maddux didn't affect you when he joined this staff?
Because, I mean, I don't have that big of an ego. I guess some people might argue that, but, you know, I mean, here's a situation where we had a good pitching staff, and we have a chance to add a guy who was a Cy Young Award winner the year before, and why wouldn't you want a guy like that on your team? And I think there was more people that tried to make some kind of rivalry there between the two of us that just wasn't there. And I mean, Greg is, again, a quality guy that you're adding to your team as a pitcher, and he was a good guy, too, and a guy that fit perfectly into what our pitching staff was, which was guys that like to goof around, guys that like to play golf, and guys that like to pitch. So he fit in perfectly.
Too bad he wasn't there for the creek story. We know what you've done with your baseball career. You were a 4th-round draft pick by the LA Kings in the NHL. I know you're a big hockey fan coming from Massachusetts. When you think back, do you wonder even now maybe what it would have been like had you gone played hockey and what kind of career you'd have had?
Yeah, I don't think there's much time that doesn't go by that I don't wonder what would have happened or how far I would have gotten. I certainly don't second-guess my decision. Obviously, the way things have worked out has made it real easy for me not to second-guess it. But, you know, there's a lot of guys in the NHL now that I played against in high school or even with in high school on some all-star teams up in Massachusetts. So when I see those guys there, it kind of makes me wonder how far I would have gotten. But I know it would have been a lot of hard work.
If you could right now, not trading away anything that you've enjoyed in baseball, go play in the NHL, would you do it and give up baseball?
Not now, not knowing what I know about baseball now, no. You know, this is a great lifestyle. You know, you're out in nice weather all the time, or most of the time.
Unless you're playing golf with you.
You know, and I think the physical side of baseball obviously is less demanding than hockey, so from those standpoints, I think baseball would be tough to give up.
For you, how do you approach this season, personally, with the team, having accomplished all that you've accomplished? How do you stay motivated?
Well, I think that as a pitcher, I can still get better. You know, I think over the course of the last 2 years, I've probably gotten smarter as a pitcher, and I think when I see that that progression mentally. I just want to stay healthy and see how much better I can get because of the things I've been learning. So, you know, I just want to stay healthy, make my 35 starts, and I figure if I do that, everything will take care of itself. You know, I've said it before, I'd love to win 20 games again. I'd love to win another Cy Young Award if I can ever get Greg's hands off that thing. But, and I'd love to win another World Championship first and foremost. So as long as I have those things in my head, I'll always be motivated.
Hey, you got your health. Well, good. Thanks for coming by. It's always good to talk to you. Be careful for those rocks on the golf course.
I will. Thanks for having me.
Keep hitting them straight. Tom Glavine of the Atlanta Braves. We appreciate him being with us here on Up Close in Los Angeles. I'm Chris Myers. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.